So the clock is ticking. Look at that, the bottom half of the ladder, 4-4-4 all the way. Just one win, except number 18, David. And as we get cracking, that leads to you.
Yeah, look, I know we've been in a hurry to say this for years, and they won a flag last year, but I think we've seen the end of an era. I think the Cats are cooked. I really do. And I don't say that lightly because I've been one that's jumped the gun on this a few years ago and undersold they're absolute professionals at the top of the tree and their leaders in Selwood and Dangerfield and Hawkins and these guys, and probably wasn't sure what were they going to get out of Jeremy Cameron. Was he going to be the answer last year? And, you know, when I look at it now, the air's come out of the tyres a lot for the Cats, and a lot's gone wrong at the start of the year. They're chasing the game in terms of fitness. They're chasing the game in terms of health. At 0-3, and just the look of their team now, I've never seen their midfield look so slow. They just look like they're being out-hunted at the moment. And I know there'd be some concerns in the Geelong coach's box, and you know they'll do their best to kick that can down the road. But right now, they've never looked in a state of disrepair defensively like they are at the minute.
Well, of course, it was the Suns that overran them, as we saw in the last quarter, 10-13, 73 to 7-12, 54, despite the best efforts of Jeremy Cameron. In some ways, it makes what they did last year more amazing, doesn't it? Because they don't look anything more than an average team at the moment. All the reins that they pulled last year were incredible. But what did you see today that leads you to that conclusion?
Well, I think you're going to hear this from the coach. And the coach is a great orator because he has a way of just sort of fudging things enough to not allow you to be alarmed.
Massages his words.
He massages things around. So let's have a listen to Chris Scott post-game.
Look, clearly we're a bit off, have been, in the early part of the year. Look, I don't think we've been horrible, but the competition's so tight now that, you lose a couple of tight ones, a few things haven't gone our way. Our execution's off. It kind of doesn't... It doesn't look like the way that we play when we're at our best. But we've always known that, even when we were going really well, that if our level slips a little bit, the comp's so tight that, if you fall back a little bit, you're at risk of losing every game you play.
The issue for me is that it's in the midfield. It's where they've always been strong. And life after Selwood, I think, is really hitting home. Not just with his leadership, but in game. Like, he had the ability to rally the troops in a 5-10 minute window. Minus 16 clearances, minus 24 contested possessions. When you look at that number there, Joey, it's never been seen before. 1 point for the game from stoppages. The last team that I thought this would be about would be Geelong.
Yeah, look, I tend to agree. Like, I still think there's going to be an element throughout this year that they'll look threatening and they might pose to be the old Geelong, but I think maybe it is starting. And we did think eventually it was going to catch up with them. So when I look, reality-wise, those champions are 12 months older. It's you can't hide from that fact. They now have their premiership medallion, so you just wonder, even if it's just 1%, they've just lost that slight edge. Dangerfield, has he just lost it 1% because he's finally got the medal? The new players that have come in, that is realistic, and there is an element of that softer pre-season. So I think when you add up all those things,
a later pre-season, maybe not soft,
or maybe they didn't they haven't been as heavy with their training.
You touched on Danger. There's his post half-time numbers today. I mean, it was stark, the fact that he couldn't impact the game. So then you say, okay, well let's not ever go at Patrick. What's there under that to pick up the slack? And I think regardless of whether they have a spike in the next 2 to 3 weeks, it'll be a dead cat bounce. It'll be a false economy. It'll be a false read. And there was a young man there today, so I want to sort of flip top and tail this a little bit. I think these two teams will be ships in the night, one going north, one going south, and show a little bit of vision of Matt Rowell and what he did to him, particularly late in stoppage today. He was unbelievable. I mean, just the little things, and you don't really capture his best when you watch it the first time. You've got to go back and watch the game again, but head in a hole every time. These were almost consecutive stoppages. And just the want and will to get there first. Look at this, bang, break away. I haven't seen that happen to a Geelong for a long time.
Well, that is a little bit Dangerfield-esque, isn't it? That's what Dangerfield has done for 15 years, the way that desperate to dive on footies and burst out and play with that power and that contest.
So 24 disposals and 18 contested possessions for Matt Rowell. He's going to be a phenomenal guy, so let's not get too worried about him. I want to look at behind centre as well, because right now defensively is where they've got their greatest concerns. They can't stop the opposition moving the ball, and when they get it inside their forward 50, the Cats D50 is a broken product at the moment. I know they've got some injuries, but so too do a lot of clubs, and you've got to find a way. There was one ball that went in tonight that was just un-Geelong-like for me. It held up high. That ball, for the last 70 games, has been killed by 6 Geelong defenders. Or if not, they're so organised, they lock the body down, and Stewart, who's been out and injured and all that sort of stuff, so we're not necessarily hammering one guy because he was very good today. But that just gets solved. That just gets sorted. It hit me right between the eyes when I saw that.
Well, that's just what happens when you just lose that bit of confidence. You start second-guessing. There's a tiny bit of self-doubt. You think someone... And all that, when you're clicking, it just all happens automatically. But as soon as there's that lack of confidence, that's what we can see. And maybe all those things are adding up, as we said, to see where they are at the moment.
And they've got so much right with their management of players, haven't they? But Tom Hawkins, it clearly hasn't worked this year with the limited pre-season he had. He got the kick on the calf in that opening game against Collingwood. They decided to keep playing him, and that hasn't worked, unfortunately.
He can't move. He looks more like Braden Bruce than Tom Hawkins. He had 5 kicks today.
To Braden.
Yeah, he needs a mini pre-season. I think you've got to give this guy a chance. It's tough on him to do this. Left it all to Jeremy Cameron. He kicked 3-3 today. So last week we talked about wallpapering over the cracks that are there, because Jeremy kicked 6-1 and he kicked goals that were 30% opportunity. So this is what we expected to be coming. They couldn't handle the heat, and again, flip this to the positive if you like. The Suns were brilliant with their forward 50 heat today, and it's their leadership group. I mean, look at this Chaser Miller. There's 5, 6, 7 efforts here just to do the right thing by his team. Now, they don't get the immediate result, but they get an opportunity to lock the ball in their forward half. Holman's a role player. But look at this, he boots it in. He got the head strapping on today. I think he thought he was Joel Selwood for about 15 minutes. He just went crazy. To follow up and do this, good hustle there, good work from the forwards, and then in come Holman and just shut the whole thing down. Chase, harass, stick to the task. This is what the Suns need to become. Role players play the roles, and then the stars take over. But this was brilliant. And the Cats didn't have any answers for it, so you can take the positive, you can take the negative. But I was thrilled for the Suns to see this sort of performance.
Yep.
And then we've been waiting for it for a while, in fairness, and we've probably seen a couple of false dawns in the past. So let's hope this is now them for the season and beyond, because, as I said, ships in the night, these two teams.
It felt big doing the game. It felt big because Jack Lukosius, you've been one, he's had his critics. But he 5 goals. He'd never kicked more than 2 before in a game, and they've been trying to play him as a forward. They're still trying to work out exactly what he is. But this goal was incredible. But to kick 5 goals, including clutch goals in the last quarter, was fantastic.
Yeah, and I'm hard on him because he can do this.
Yep.
I mean, he kicks 5 goals too today, 3 big contested marks. Ben King, he dropped everything for the first 15 minutes. And then just that, to say, boys, it's okay, I've got your back here, I've got you covered. So their stars did what they had to do, and we don't apologise for saying what we say about Jack Lukosius last week. This is all we want. I'm not saying kick 5 goals, but compete. His 6 contested...
He did compete, didn't he?
He took 3 big contested marks, and when the team needed him to be brave and kick the goal or hit the target, he did all of those things. So I was thrilled for him. I was thrilled for Charlie Ballard, who we were hard on last week. He played on Cameron.
Yep.
So they didn't miss him. They said, no, not only are you playing, good luck against the best player in the comp.
So what is Lukosius' best spot? Is it now coming out of the goal scorer, or coming out of the 50 with Ben King? Is that now the forward look that can take them places going forward? Because there's been, talk about Marbell Chol, he's kicking goals, but the way that he gets them, and Levi Casbolt's been super, but, coming sort of more towards the end. Is it Lukosius King? Is that a good enough combination to get them to finals?
I think Jack will determine where he plays. Yep. If he plays with absolute competitive nature that he had today, he plays forward, because he can catch and kill his own. But if he plays half-hearted, half-hand in, no tackle efforts, no second efforts, then you have to manufacture a spot for him, which is not the way to build a premiership team. And
it was a perfect way to honour David Swallow, the first son to play 200 games, inaugural son who was drafted at number 1, and there was the respect was immense today.
Well, you talk about the leaders, Kingy and Touk Miller, and the other boys that are all jumping on board. He's been the benchmark of that footy club. He has tried to set a standard at that footy club that he wants others to follow, and he's now got some support. He's for a while there he was sort of carrying that mantle, but as you said, the Touk Miller and Matty Rowell and Noah Anderson and these guys have jumped on board, and he can just play his role and still have an important role in the team, but not as significant as it was at his height. But credit to his loyalty as well. That's got to be recognised too. Well done.
100%. And just to put a full stop on the Geelong conversation, they were the oldest team of the round this round. 10 players north of 30 years of age and only 4 players under 24 years of age. So now there's some juggling that needs to be done to get into that next phase of life after the absolute powerhouse.
Yeah, and I guess they were all of that last year, and they did some good recruiting for the future over the summer, but that's not necessarily going to help.
What's your
this
first
year.
crack?